if you've got this idea and you
Hmm.
feel so strongly about it that it keeps coming up, then go for it. Because
Hmm.
truly, this might be a cliche, but the hardest part is just getting started.
Welcome back, mompreneurs, to another episode of the Good Enough Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Angela Mishuli. I am so glad you're here with me today, and I cannot wait to share with you my interview with Lindsay Stuart, the founder and CEO of Mamalux. And we talk about her entrepreneurial journey and also her mission to make motherhood unapologetically visible. And I love that mission so much. So, let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay and her business, Mamalux. So, Mamalux prioritizes both functionality and comfort to improve the postpartum experience for new moms. Mamalux has a leak-proof lounge dress that quickly went to a wait list after launch, but it's now restocked. And she just launched her second product. And she does amazing things like pitches investors with babies, strapped to her because that's her life. And she's a mom. And she also is the CEO of a company that creates products for new moms. And she has a wonderful perspective about being a mompreneur in that situation. So I can't wait to share that with you. Here are the few things that we're going to talk about. Number one, being a mom, business owner with toddlers and infants, but really how you have to focus on maximizing the time that you have, because we're all given the same 24 hours in a day, but it's really how you focus and utilize that time. Regardless of the age of your children, we can all find reasons to not be focused. So, we talk also about bringing a product from concept to market, especially in an industry that you might not have any background. Just like Lindsay, she was not in the apparel industry and she had to figure that out all on her own. Then also, she has a really wonderful tip towards the end of the interview that you're not going to want to miss, because it really teaches someone who is just starting a business a tip to keep your business idea at the top of your to-do list, to stay focused and make it a priority. I really love her tip on that. Before I share the interview, I just want to invite you to leave the podcast a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps other mompreneurs find the show. It helps us know that we're creating content that resonates, and it's helping you in creating a community for mom business owners. And be sure to follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss one episode. So without further ado, here's my interview with the lovely Lindsay Stuart, the founder and CEO of Mamalux. Hi, I have Lindsay Stewart on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me. You are the founder and CEO of Mamalux. Welcome.
Thank you.
I am so excited to talk to you, not only for like the product that you make and inspires you and impacts so many women, but the fact that you did this with little ones and you left a corporate career. So I can't wait to dive into your story. So welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to get into all of it.
Yes, we are going to dish the dirt on like how all this happened. And I love that I read that you have a mission to make motherhood unapologetically visible. And that is such an incredible statement. And I think your product does that and makes women more comfortable. But I really don't think we realize how much we do kind of apologize for being moms. And yes, we absolutely need to make that more of the conversation. And I think the pandemic helped that a lot. We all realized, oh, hey, we have families. And so I think
Mhm.
that helped. And I want to talk about that more. But first, why don't you talk about Mamalux, your business baby, as we call it
Yeah.
on the podcast?
Yes, one of my many children.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I was telling you before we started recording, I started the business idea with one child and ended sort of by the time we launched, I had three. So it's seen me through a lot of stages of parenthood. But yeah, so Mamalux, the idea came to me when I was breastfeeding my 3-month old at the time. And I was leaking breast milk overnight and had no idea that that was even a thing. And I felt like I had been so prepared for motherhood, but no one had mentioned it.
Right.
I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but
Right.
but I had no idea that you leak milk. You don't just breastfeed. It also just like things just flow out of you. And it was weird and I was uncomfortable at night because I learned that in order to, deal with the leaks, you had to wear a bra and you had to wear nursing pads, and sleeping in that is just so uncomfortable. And so I started just like Googling, like, how do I stop breast milk from leaking and not wear a bra? It was a better Google than that, but I realized I know how to Google.
I'm sure that is like something someone has Googled before. I'm sure of it.
Well, like, yeah, that was the thing. I came across all these different forums and all kinds of, people asking the same question, and there was
Mhm.
nothing out there that would allow you to absorb breast milk and not wear a bra. And so I just like started sketching out like, okay, how could this work? Like, is there like a shirt that could have some pads attached so you don't have to wear a bra? Like it's just built in, made for breastfeeding.
And not like the ones that you buy at the store.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those disposable pads are
Yeah.
are no good. They're
They
scratchy.
were created by a man, I'm sure.
I mean, they were. They totally were. That's it's funny you say that because when I did some initial like customer discovery to kind of flesh out the idea, a couple moms said like, there's no way that another mom created these products.
Right.
There's just no way.
Nope.
Um, yeah. So yeah, what I eventually ended up with is a product called the Leak Proof Lounge Dress, and we have a tank top coming soon. But it has built-in but removable nursing pads. So the idea is that you sleep in it, or you just wear it around the house all day. You have your pads in there for the milk leakage, and then once they're saturated, you swap them in with a fresh pair, and you don't have to wash the whole garment.
Right.
Because let's get real, like there's enough laundry to do. Would wear the same thing for like 72 hours,
Right. And they're not like these disposable, uncomfortable, itchy, scratchy, like you totally look like you're stuffing your bra.
Yeah, they're contoured, so it just looks like you're wearing a regular bra.
Right.
And it gives you some support, but you don't have the uncomfortable bra straps. And yeah, I mean, I'm sort of far enough into my breastfeeding journey with my current that I'm not leaking, but I still wear them all the time because
Mm-hmm.
it's
They're just
comfy.
comfy.
Yeah. So and going back to the unapologetic thing, I just wanted to have something that doesn't make you feel like you have to cover up and hide, this part of your life. This is what you're wearing and you feel good and you're happy in it, but it's also solving this problem that most of us have to deal with if we're breastfeeding. So
Right. And how many generations of women just accepted what they had and just were like, well, this stinks, but but you took the extra step and said, no, there's got to be a better way.
yeah,
And I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting because there's obviously so many women have babies and deal with all of these things, but it seems like the
Yeah.
innovations stop after you give birth. There's so much focus on the baby and even being pregnant and all
Yep.
of these amazing baby products. And then
Mhm.
it's like the mom is forgotten about as soon as the baby comes out of you.
That is a really good point. And I think that's 100% true, honestly. I mean, it's been more than 10 years since I've had a baby, but I remember feeling that way. It was like, okay.
Yeah, step aside and now let's
Right.
focus on the baby.
Right. Yeah. And pressuring you about what are your next steps? What are you gonna do now? When are you gonna have another one?
Right.
When you go back to work? What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's changing a lot. I think but yeah, like I just sort of remember even when I had my first, people would just say like, "Oh, how's he doing? How's he doing?" And I wanted someone to be like, "How are you doing?
Right.
Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything that you need?" But yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love how you've created this product that gives gives women this sense of self back.
Mhm.
It's like because not only are you looking for that, but you're trying to find your own identity and try to feel a little bit normal again. A
Yeah.
new normal after you have your first or your subsequent child. It's really tough. And I think any little thing that you can kind of bring comfort or feel like you don't have to hide or helps you do what you need to do or rest. Oh my gosh, how much rest do you need? A lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think it's hard when you're so fundamentally changed after you have a baby,
yeah.
yet you're supposed to fit your new body and your new lifestyle into the same, clothes and the same things that you had
Right.
before, and that's not fair.
Right. No, it's not. Absolutely. So you had a corporate career, right? Before you started Mama Lux. So talk about how you had the courage to go from this secure job to creating a business and something you were passionate about for yourself, because I think moms tend to not be willing to take that leap just because they want to do the most safe and secure thing that's going to help provide for their family, or you're juggling parenthood. So it's a lot of people understandably find that difficult to adopt a new mindset or adopt a new identity or start as a beginner in a new field, which you did. You didn't work in the manufacturing or clothing industry, or you figured
No.
it out all yourself. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, first I feel like I never talk about my husband and his he's fine with it, but I feel like I have to like it is such a gift that I have a supportive spouse who,
Yeah,
saw how much I believed in this idea and was like, "Okay, we can do this. Like I want you to go for it." And not everyone has that. So,
sure.
super
Yep,
grateful.
absolutely. Makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like you have to have kind of both. If you're with a partner, like that person has to be just as, okay with this as you
Yep.
do. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I did leave, I left a sort of corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
I was the head of marketing for another startup.
Mm-hmm.
And we made these like really cool Bluetooth enabled umbrellas that would yeah, like if you lost it you would get an alert on your phone to tell
Hey,
you genius, right?
yeah, right.
And that company is still around and they're doing great.
Oh,
But
nice.
I was their first employee. And so through that process, I really was inspired by the founder. It's called, I don't know why I'm being secretive. It's called Weatherman. He's a meteorologist and it's so
Nice.
cool. But he really inspired me because he
Uh-huh.
also wasn't an expert in these things. He just believed in creating something innovative and sort of like learned along the way. And so being there
Mm-hmm.
to help with the marketing, I also sort of learned. And even though these are completely different
Oh.
fields,
Mm-hmm.
I knew like the steps like that you kind of had to take, like sketching out the idea, finding an industrial, technical designer and
Hmm.
finding a factory. And so all of these sort of things, I had at least a blueprint for.
Oh, I
And
love that. That's really
yeah.
interesting. So yeah, but even though you had that support, so do you think your husband was obviously supportive, but how did you find that confidence? I mean, that's really rare.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not usually that. I like a paycheck. I like security. I
Yeah.
so for me, I kind of realized that because I felt so strongly about this idea and it was in the back of my head for I think 2 years before I actually like created the LLC and started paying people to create things. And so I
Hmm.
think just knowing that it was important to me because it kept popping up in my head. I just felt like, okay, I have to at least try to see this through. It's something.
I would love to stop you for a minute because that is almost something that I think every entrepreneur has. It's kind of like a knowing or like an invisible tap on your shoulder. You just are compelled to do this. And I'm sure there's somebody listening to this podcast who is trying to decide on whether to start their business or beginning to start their business. So was it something that kept getting stronger for you? Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that was having my daughter, my second child. Um,
Ah,
and this was so my first two are 18 months apart. And so in the 18 months between, I started like sketching and, having the ideas, but then I
yeah.
had a second baby and realized, okay, there's still nothing out here to solve
Hmm.
this problem. And it's been a year and a half. So, I'm still having the problem. I still wish this existed. And so,
I
yeah, it
guess
just
I'm
kind
just
of
gonna
kept
have
getting
to do it.
stronger. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I like that story. And I think a lot of people who have that feeling don't realize that other people have that too. So I love that you shared that. So what were some of the biggest obstacles for you when you took that leap to start your business?
Um, I mean, first would just be not knowing how to start a clothing company, an apparel company. I was a sports journalist and a marketer.
Mhm.
I previously had no knowledge of any other field. And so
Yeah.
just kind of doing a lot of research, just through good old Google and finding first like someone to turn my kind of drawings into something that I could then pass along to a factory was really just it took me a while to kind of get to those steps.
So you
Um,
just kept reaching out to people and
mhm.
to see if they could help you turn your sketch into like a concrete kind of prototype, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I spent a lot of time and a lot of money that with like sort of trial and error. So I think
Oh yeah.
it's definitely an advantage to create a business within an industry you're familiar with.
Oh
Um,
sure.
obviously. But yeah, so it was a learning curve for sure, but I would say that was the hardest part.
Right. So you obviously had a willingness to be a beginner, which most people find too intimidating because it was something that you weren't familiar with. Did you have any self doubt when it came to that? Were there times where you just felt like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, or it's too hard, or
I mean, I still have those moments every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
So yes.
And like,
Yeah.
how do you kind of overcome that?
Oh gosh. I wish I mean, right now it's interesting because the business is 2 years old, I guess, and I'm
Hmm.
still I have days where I'm frustrated and I just feel like, looking at the numbers too much and whatever. But then I'll have
Hmm.
a good day. I'll have a
Hmm.
5-star review, someone telling me how much they love the product and how it helped them and they
Hmm.
feel like a person and not a mom anymore. And it's like, okay, yes, it's like a shot of
Hmm.
adrenaline. So now I'm really like kind of surviving on the feedback and yeah, those,
Oh, yeah.
oh man, the one happy customer can turn everything around for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, there is so much importance in reviews and getting that feedback to know like what you're creating is making an impact for anybody who creates anything. I mean, that's a really good example for anybody running a business to like on those low days pull out those reviews.
Yes. Oh my
Find
God.
that thing that keeps you going because it's a roller coaster, right?
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
definitely can be. So how did your role as mom change during this time when you didn't have the 9 to 5 and now you have this business? So how did that work?
Yeah, it's been a struggle for me, especially in the months leading up to the launch. I just felt really pulled in so many different directions. And even though I'm lucky I have full-time childcare, I just, you obviously still want your kids to know that that you want to spend
Yeah,
time with them and be with them. And it's such like a important age to spend time with your kids. Obviously, they're growing up so quickly. And
right.
I felt like I couldn't, every time I was with them, I'd be like looking at my phone or like writing a to-do list of all the things I had to do when they went to bed. And so that was a struggle. And I not sure that I've figured it out. I'm doing my best. My husband and I both have recently like sort of made a rule that we have to put our phones away from 5 until they go to bed. And so that helps.
That's a great
But
role. Yeah.
yeah, and it was necessary because we
Yeah.
were both, I mean, he's got a busy job. Like we both just kind
Mhm.
of found ourselves passing the time until they went to sleep, and that's not fair. Um,
Yeah.
so it's tough. I mean, I don't know the answer. It's always going to be a struggle when you have, like you said, like these two babies that
Well, I
you're thinking
think the answer is actually that this idea of like work-life balance, it's elusive. It doesn't exist.
about.
And we should, and when you have children, they're especially when you have three that are different ages, they're going to consistently change. Their needs are going to change. Their schedules are going to change. School, nap time, whatever. So things are always in flux, and you just have to trust yourself to work it out and adapt to
No.
that.
Yeah. I mean, a few months ago, I ended up doing a big investor pitch to a room of more than 100 people with a baby strapped to my chest because
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? I was breastfeeding. I didn't have enough milk, so I had to bring the baby and I didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. So I'm like, I'm just gonna make it work.
yeah, and how did that turn out? Did that turn out well?
It was great because he fell
Yeah,
asleep. He fell asleep
that's
right before I stepped
right.
on the stage. But I think,
That's
like you
wonderful.
said, I mean, the pandemic has made all of
Yeah.
this parenting, everyone has sort of started to understand what it
Mm-hmm.
looks like in the background.
Right.
And so I think there was a lot of acceptance or people just didn't even think it was a big deal at all. So
Right.
yeah,
That's wonderful to hear.
silver lining.
Right, right. I mean, if you have to find a silver lining, which I think we all do about all of the obstacles that we're going through, for me, I remember prior to the pandemic, I've worked for years remotely, and I always had this sense that I had to like hide my children, like, don't
Hmm.
breathe, don't speak. I don't even care if I was on Zoom or on the phone, like, the other person wasn't to know I was a mother. So,
Yeah, right.
so that's when I read your statement, about not apologizing for being a mom. That's incredible. I mean, that really hit me in that, yeah, we have done that for a really long time. And it seems like there's this awakening that's happening, probably combined with the pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, how has that shifted for you from going to a more corporate environment to being your own boss and, you know, just being like, I mean, do you feel like you are less apologetic about being a mom now that you're an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it certainly helps that my business is completely focused on mothers. So
Yeah.
what kind of example
Right.
would I, or what kind of culture would I be cultivating if I
Right.
was hiding that very huge part of me.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's I've also realized that I launched this company and created this business while being a mom. So who's to say that I can't run it while being a mom too? It's just kind of
Yeah.
yeah, it's really emboldened me, I think, to say, nope, I can't meet then. I've got to pick my kids up, or this is, these
Right.
times are just not good for me. Whereas before I would reschedule, doctor's appointments and things for my kids because I had a meeting at work. And that's just, you know, I'm very fortunate now that I can set the schedule, but yeah, it's better, much
That's
better.
wonderful to hear. And would you say that you spend more time with your kids now that you're an entrepreneur than when you had
Um,
a 9 to 5?
yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
so. Just because
You're around at least,
I'm
it's right. Yeah, because I consistently hear this belief that you can't be a good mom and an entrepreneur because you must be working 24/7 to be able to make a good income, or that's what it requires, or all of those things. So I love to hear, and I like to spotlight those kind of moments so I can help get rid of that belief.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I feel proud of being an entrepreneur and setting that example for my kids.
Hmm.
They're very involved. I mean, they're, 5 and under, so they're not
Yeah.
like that helpful, but I bring them to the office with me. Sometimes they help me ship orders, and
Uh-huh.
I recently moved offices and it was like a whole family project. Like we all went and did it together.
Hmm.
They tell their teachers and their friends about Mamalux, and I feel so proud that they know me as an entrepreneur. So yeah,
I
it's really
love
nice.
that. And I talked to somebody recently on the podcast who had their son write a college essay about the impact on him having a mom who was an entrepreneur. I
Oh
mean,
wow.
that's really incredible. And I think sometimes moms don't have enough belief in themselves to start their business. So I also like to spotlight we're not doing this in a vacuum. And it has an impact on our kids. And it really is an amazing demonstration for them about what is possible and their potential should they want to do anything, honestly. But, especially if they want to be an entrepreneur, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
So, what's the future look like for Mama Lux? Where do you want to take it? What impact do you want to have?
Well, I really like where we've started, which is,
Yeah.
making moms feel like they're in a good place that they're meant to be after having a baby. Not like they have to kind of shrink back into their old clothes and their old way of life, sort of
Right.
just embracing that this new phase. And so there's a lot more ideas I have, a lot more sketches, products,
Mm-hmm.
things that are coming, not just breastfeeding centric, but for the postpartum kind of experience. I sort of set out on this mission to, yeah, just make moms feel good and you know, feel like they are okay existing in this current space. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's we have a robe that just launched. It's made for nursing and pumping. It's got like a
Mm-hmm.
clip at the top so it can kind of keep you as covered up as you want to be. Um
Mm-hmm.
and we have a nursing cover that's coming out and a few other products. I'd love to be in some bigger stores, like maybe a Target or
Mm-hmm.
Buy Buy
Sure.
Baby, things like that. So, oh, we're also launching on Amazon in a couple months, which is
Nice.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah.
so big things on the horizon. No more kids for me either. So, this is the baby,
This is your
yeah,
last baby, or
the last
maybe
baby. Yes.
your business baby.
Yes.
I love that. So what is it that you think that you would have wanted to hear as a new mompreneur to kind of like, what is it that you wish you would have known or would have really helped you on your journey to starting your business?
Um, Maybe just to listen to that kind of feeling in the back of your head. If you've got this idea and you
Mm-hmm.
feel so strongly about it that it keeps coming up, then go for it. Because
Mm-hmm.
truly, this might be a cliche, but the hardest part is just getting started. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you literally just like do that initial sketch, then you're gonna pick up a little bit of, you're
Yeah.
you're gonna keep going. So
Right. It does
yeah.
take so much momentum and energy in the beginning, and
Momentum.
it's
That's the word.
yeah.
I was like, why can't I think of
Yeah.
that word?
But it does. I mean, I heard this analogy from somebody else. I can't take credit for it, that it's kind of like clearing the jungle with a machete at the beginning. You're just like,
Yeah.
take no prisoners. And then at some point, if you're lucky, you kind of get to a clearing and then you can find, some more clarity and think about where you want to go after you've kind of built the airplane.
Totally.
Yeah, there's definitely a different phase between being a new entrepreneur and then kind of wanting to build on what you've already created, for
Mhm.
sure. So in all of this, what do you do for yourself? Because I think it's so important for us to like remember to honor ourselves and take time for do so. I don't care if it's like you have 5 minutes once a month where you do nothing or you get your nails done or whatever. So, so what is it you do for you that keeps you going?
Oh my gosh. When you just asked me that, I panicked. I was like, what do
Ah!
I do? I I work out. I try to work out just to I fight it sometimes, but as soon as I do, I'm like, I'm really glad I took 30 to 45 minutes just
Right.
to, zone out. And I also make a really good challah. I bake. And so that like is a completely just kind of like Zen activity for me is
I
baking.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And we talked too on the podcast about kind of maintaining that identity for yourself, because you can go get so engrossed in your business, you can get so engrossed in being a mom that, you do have to find that little thing, that whatever it is that is yours. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely times that I am way more focused on the business or way more focused on being a mom. And that is a real challenge of being a mom and an entrepreneur, is that you do have these really big competing priorities all the time. And it's
true.
okay, I think, if they're not perfectly balanced all the time.
Absolutely. And I don't think that they really ever are. And, you know, a guest on the podcast once said that kind of like our real power is figuring out that time to press on the gas, whether it's being more of a mom and kind of letting our business kind of like take care of itself, or have people that help us do that, or there are times that you have a launch or whatnot where you're obviously going to have to focus more on the business and just kind of orchestrating that. And it's like a symphony. It's like, okay, here's how it works. So do you have any tips on how you manage that, like how you manage your schedule? And because time management questions come up a lot too.
No, I need help. Honestly.
That is a fair
Uh,
answer. And I love that because, it's so easy to see somebody, oh, they did a launch and they have their product and they got, all of these things. They have a wait list and demand for their product. And so they
yeah.
must have it all figured out.
No, I mean, I'm I'm one of those people who thrives when I'm busier. And so I think it's been helpful for me that I have my kids are in school half the day. So I know
Mhm.
like I can go drop them off and then I have a very limited window where I can do just work stuff. And so that sort of forces me, I think, to
Yeah.
get it all done. Um,
Hmm.
it's interesting because when I have a full day, I usually get a lot less done.
There is a principle with time that if you commit or allot as much time as you need to do a task, you're going to take that amount of time
Mhm.
instead of really focusing. And I like when people want to quit their jobs and focus full time on their business, I always warn them like, make sure, because sometimes
Yeah.
if you still have that main job, it actually makes you more productive and more effective in the business that you want to start. So that's not always the best plan until you have like this really consistent income coming in and you're like ready to do it. So I love that advice. I mean, none of us have it figured out. And if anybody tells you they have it figured out, I'm not sure I would trust them,
Right.
quite honestly.
Yeah. Or they have a lot of help or something.
Right. Yeah. If I had a team of 100 people, fine. I could work
Totally.
the 3 hour workday 4 days a week or whatever. Um, but I think, entrepreneurs tend to be really creative. So if we have the extra time, we're going to fill it with
Exactly.
new projects and like, oh, well, I could work on this and work on that.
Yep. And you're like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock. Whoops.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah. Or like it's 1 a.m. Whoops.
Or that. Yes. Yeah. The workday doesn't actually end at 5 for most people anymore. There's
Right.
too much home, you're at your computer anyways. You're like, oh, well,
Right.
I might as well. Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about what you would want your main message to anybody listening to this podcast. Like what takeaway you mentioned, go for it. And that is absolutely great advice. But if you wanted to inspire somebody listening to this podcast, what would you say to them?
Well, if you want to, I don't know if this is good advice. This is just what I did. So I'm prefacing it with that. But if you need a little encouragement to get yourself to like make this big idea happen, start spending a little bit of money on it and it'll become more important to you. I was really
Yeah.
hesitant to actually pay someone to turn my sketches into,
Mm-hmm.
something that I could take to a factory. But as soon as I spent that couple $100s, I was like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I'm not wasting this money. I am going to make sure that this money actually goes to creating this product. So,
Yeah, no,
take a little risk.
yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a lot to that statement actually, because it comes with anything, any investment that you make, like whether you get a coach or take a course or, get a degree to learn a new skill or whatever it is. If you are going to invest money in it, if you want to kind of hold yourself accountable in some way related to, because that's really hard as entrepreneurs, like we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
Right, we
Yeah.
have to find those little mind tricks to keep us in the game. So I think that that's actually a really good piece of advice, because it is really difficult if you've never been in a situation where you have to manage your own time and you have to be accountable to yourself for what you're doing and where you're going and having that vision and doing all of the things that can be really tough. So I think that that's really an insightful way to kind of hold yourself accountable.
Oh, good. I'm glad it
Yeah.
wasn't horrible.
Don't sell yourself short.
Don't empty out your life savings or anything,
Right.
but have a
Yes.
little bit at stake to make you keep going.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No, I love that. So yeah, do you have anything else you would like to share with podcast listeners about Mamalux, or, definitely where they can reach you and contact you?
Sure, yeah. The website is wearmamalux.com,
Uh-huh.
WEAR Mamalux. And same with the Instagram and TikTok. And I love hearing from moms about anything that they think would make their motherhood more comfortable and,
Yeah, I was thinking
enjoyable.
about that when you were thinking about other products. I'm sure there are women out there that at that minute thought of something that they wish was out there that, they feel like they can't figure out how to make, or somebody else would be in a good position to do. So absolutely reach out to Lindsay with your ideas on
Yes.
what you're missing in your motherhood journey.
I want to solve all the problems. Is that too ambitious? I don't know.
Oh, no, that's not too ambitious. That's great. I love that so much. And it's such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your time. And I think you're
Thank
doing
you.
amazing things. And I'm just like so grateful to have a platform where I can share women's stories like yourself to highlight what you're doing and encourage anybody else who wants to take that leap and, start that sketch,
Yeah.
to just go do it. Because, like with you, I think the tap only gets louder. So it's not going to go away. So you might as well just go ahead and start. I mean, do you wish you would have started sooner?
Yes.
I was going to say, if you had one regret, would it be that you wish you would have started sooner?
Yeah, yes, but I also don't think I was fully ready.
Right.
It had to be that loud. It had to be that kind of, I think I needed to have another baby to realize
Right.
that I was going to be the one to solve this problem, not to make
Right.
it sound too grandiose, but
Oh, you're like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous.
Yes. All
That's
right.
it.
Fine. I'll do it.
That's what gave you the permission to have the third, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for your time. It was such a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Yes, you're more the pleasure was all mine, actually. Thank you.
Oh, this was great. I'm like gonna be on a high today. I feel so good. Thank you for
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, these conversations fill my bucket because, it's so lonely as a mom, but also as an entrepreneur. I mean, so to be able to connect in this way with other entrepreneurs who are moms, it's really incredible. It really is.
Yeah,
So I get
I
messages all
agree.
the time from moms who are grateful to have found the podcast and hear the stories. So definitely
Oh, I
has an
love that.
impact. Yeah, you to
Well,
do
I
that.
love what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's so cool to like create this community of mom entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I know,
So,
because it can feel just so lonely at times. But,
yeah.
definitely want moms to be encouraged, but also feel less lonely when they hear,
Yeah.
other people are doing the same thing and, have similar ideas. And
Mhm. Yeah,
so,
totally.
so I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. It was so nice talking to you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much to Lindsay for being on the podcast and sharing her entrepreneurial experience and her tips, and just being so authentic and real about what it's really like being a mompreneur, especially with little ones. It is not easy, and we're not here to glamorize, oh, you can do and be everything and it's all great. No, it's hard. It really is hard. But what is really needs to stick out is that you can do it. It is possible. And if you have a business idea that keeps resurfacing, you keep hearing that voice, I hope this episode really gave you permission to begin pursuing that. So thank you so much again to Lindsay, and I'm going to leave all of her contact information below. And if you're loving this content, you're not going to want to miss next week. I have another great interview coming to you with a parenting book author who is just extraordinary. Just like all of my guests, I feel so blessed to bring you their stories and bring you their wisdom and experience, because I know it contributes to my life. I certainly hope it is contributing to yours. I love the messages that I get from moms who are just finding a community in a place where they're like, yes, finally, somebody who knows what I'm going through. So if you would like to learn more about me and my services, if you'd like to contact me or reach out to me, you can go to mombusinesscoach.com and you'll have all the information there to reach out to me. You can send me a DM on Instagram, and you can find that on my website. I love to hear from mompreneurs or anyone who finds the content, helpful and uplifting. I love it. So thank you so much for joining me on another episode. I cannot wait to talk to you again next week. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and thank you so much for listening.